Look at it, just so tiny and cute and pretty and little tiny thing. Did you record that? What's up everybody, you're watching Model Aviator. My name's Adam and we're glad you're here. This week we're pretty excited to bring you a brand spanking new release. This is E-Flite's latest. This is the Vans RV-7 Sport 1.1 meter and you can get yours at Horizon Hobby. Now, the Vans RV series of home-built experimental aircraft is quite simply the most popular home-built aircraft on the planet, and as a result they've been modeled quite a bit over the years. We've seen everything from large and small scale balsa ARFs to large and small scale foamies, and I've been privileged enough from time to time to be able to fly some of those examples, and I have to tell you, I've never flown an RV that flew bad, and this one is no exception. So on the episode today, we'll talk a little bit briefly about the assembly of this aircraft. It's crazy easy, and then from there we'll go right into the flying footage. We'll show you footage from our Maiden. That was done on a gray, cold, windy day. The advantage of that and blowing 8 to 12 miles an hour is, of course, you get to see how the airplane handles the wind, but also because it's a little darker outside, you get to see how awesome these lights look, and they are awesome. Then we'll show you footage from a much better day, sunny day, much less wind, where we flew the airplane on 4S as well as 3S, which nobody really says anything in the manual or any of the promotion about flying it on 3S, but you absolutely can, and it's not bad. So if all you have is 3S batteries, we're going to show you what it looks like on that. Then we'll go into the setup, and stick around for that. We'll have our normal setup page like we always do that has all the documentation written for you to pause and kind of study and really look at if you want to. But there are a few things that we did. We're going to offer some setup options depending on what your mission might be for this airplane. One of which really takes the airplane to an extreme and enables it to do some things that before I flew it, if you'd told me this thing would do what we're going to do with it, I'd have told you you've lost your mind, there's no way, but it will absolutely do it. So stick around for that. We also put it on the watt meter. We metered it on 3S and 4S. And we'll introduce something we haven't talked about, watts per pound, which we have those stats. That's kind of an interesting thing to talk about for any electric airplane. So we hope you enjoyed this review. We certainly enjoyed making it for you. We really appreciate the outpouring of support for the channel thus far. Thank you to everybody. Please keep that support coming. Like, comment, and subscribe. And with that, let's get right to it. Okay, so assembling this thing, in a word, piece of cake. That's a few words. Anyway, manual, right on the money. All the parts were there, fit and finish, pretty much perfect. 4 machine screws for the gear, 4 machine screws for the wing, 2 self-tapping screws for the horizontal with a little carbon spar, normal bits for the prop, and by the way, this one-piece wing, when you put it on the fuselage, that automatically makes the electrical connections for you, so that plugs in your flaps, ailerons, and lights. It truly couldn't be simpler. If you are enough skill level to fly this airplane, you should be able to build it with your eyes shut. Bubba could build this thing. But you don't think so?
No, I don't think so.
Well, whatever. Let's go flying. When you maiden an airplane in weather like this, usually impatience is what makes that happen. For us, it was scheduling. We were just hoping to get a ballpark tune on it at best. here we're checking to see what it does inverted. Here we're lining it up into the wind to see what the stall characteristics are like. And it drops the right wing, but just neutralized the controls and it flew right out of it. Trying to bring it back around and confirm and do it again, but the wind's blowing hard enough up there. It's kind of hard to get it to stall in the headwind, so I get lazy and just give up on it. And here's our maiden landing. Wind's still blowing, kind of gusting and changing directions, but it laid down a good bit for the landing, which was nice. Normally when you drop the flaps or put the gear down on anything you're going to land on a maiden, that's when the wind picks up. We got lucky. Love the lights. I have to say, I was really surprised at how well the airplane did on 3S. You have to remember, I knew what the numbers were with the watt meter going into this. So I had a specific expectation, and I have to say, the power it makes on 3S provides more performance than I thought it would. It's not the crazy, stupid power you have on 4S, and crazy, stupid power, I mean, we all know that's awesome to have, but from a maneuver standpoint, you can do almost everything on 3S that you can do on 4S. Some of the gyroscopic stuff that you'll see us do on 4S, it's nice having the extra lead-in speed and the extra power to maintain the momentum through tumbles, but other than that, it really does well on 3S. All RVs incorporate a Hershey bar wing design very similar to the same thing you'd see on a Cherokee. And this particular model has built-in washout on the wingtips. It's pretty easy to see looking at it. You don't really even need any kind of instrument to measure it. It's obvious it's there. And both those things really lend themselves well to great slow flight characteristics. Smaller planes like this will really expose any weakness in design, and just from flying this thing a few days, I can't find any flaws in it. One of the things people seem to want to see in reviews, one of the questions that gets asked in forums a lot, is how does an airplane perform off the grass, especially if it's a small plane. This little RV does well, and we wanted to make sure we showed that in our footage. On 4S, the little RV is a completely different animal. This is our more aggressive setup, and you can see in this little blender it really flattens out in the inverted flat spin very well with all that elevator throw. That surprised me. The slow flight characteristics with the 4S battery is just a touch of extra weight, not even hardly enough to speak of. But the airplane is as rock solid slow with the 4S as it is with the 3S. That is 2 full rotations at the top of that pop top. That's another thing I didn't expect. The aggressive setup on the control surfaces and the 4S power to lead into the maneuver, it just really does it well. This little RV falls into that category of model that I just call honest, predictable airframes. It's just really good. Very confidence inspiring. And this is not going to be my best crankshaft, but the fact that it's a crankshaft at all, and this is a RV, is pretty amazing to me. I just did not expect that kind of stuff to be possible with this airplane, but it will absolutely do it. And it'll do it better than I did it there. It's another one of those airplanes you just feel like you can do whatever you want and get away with it. And of course we're going to land it in the grass on 4S as well, just to show that it'll do it. And this is a brisk takeoff. I do another one where I extend the takeoff roll. I kind of hammered it there because that's the roughest part of the grass, and I just wanted to get it out of there so I didn't shake anything loose. Knife edge spin. Once again, something else I did not expect from this little pocket rocket. Here's a smoother, more scaled takeoff out of the grass for you. It's worth noting that the rearward CG and the extra throw of the aggressive setup, the extreme setup I think as we call it on the setup page, does not adversely affect stall characteristics. In fact, the Maiden was flown with that setup. We wanted all the control we could get for all that wind we had during the Maiden. And there's a landing on the grass on 4S. So at this point, we're just into showing you some bonus footage. There's a couple of reasons we wanted to show you this clip. And you'll see the first one fairly soon. It is the best knife edge that I did with the airplane the whole day. And while I'm fiddling around doing other things here, I'm going to talk about the landing you're going to see and what it translates to me anyway. I'm going to do a short, tight approach. It's going to be a right-hand approach from over the pond, and it's a constant turning approach. I'm going to do a 3-point landing literally at the very end of the turn. And it is a perfect 3-point touchdown. It's probably, from a difficulty level, the hardest approach of the day, and it was my best landing. And I show you that simply because you can't do something like that on your first day flying an airplane unless that airplane really instills confidence and makes you feel good about flying it. This is an example of how good this plane is. I'd take that landing every day. And this little bonus footage here, just kind of challenging myself. I did this over and over again. Takeoff, vertical climb, into a blender, and then to landing. And this is probably the best blender of the day. Love how flat that airplane gets in an inverted flat spin. That's just really good. And that is going to conclude the flying footage. Stay tuned, where we're going to talk to you about a couple things with the setup and show you the setup page. Appreciate you watching. Hopefully you got something out of this, and we hope you enjoyed it. Take care. Okay, so we're going to talk about some of the things you're going to see on the setup page. We'll have that at the end like we always do. All the information will be there. But it's going to be a little different than what you've seen in past reviews. There'll be two setups. There'll be a sport scale setup and an extreme setup. The extreme setup is the really extreme control throw setup that we use to do some of the 3D maneuvers that you saw us do. The pop tops, the blenders, the knife edge spins, things like that. Takes a lot of elevator and a CG that is a little further behind the CG that the book calls for. So one of the things we did, we made a couple of very simple mechanical adjustments. You can see here our AR620 receiver. This is the elevator servo push rod. Comes stock in the second hole from the center. we moved it over 1 to give it some mechanical adjustment there. And we also, if you take a look at the elevator control horn, we have the clevis in the hole closest to the control surface. Those two mechanical adjustments add a good bit of throw. Now, that was after we went in the transmitter and increased the servo travel. We had to add some mechanical adjustment in addition to that to get the throw that we wanted. The only other thing that we changed, when you take a look in here, you'll see 2 battery straps. This is the battery strap that comes with the aircraft. We added this one because of the rearward position of this battery that we're using. That's where we put that battery to attain our specific CG that we like to fly the airplane at. For the extreme setup, we put the battery on that line with both the 4-cell and the 3-cell for the sport scale setup. But don't get caught up where we put our battery too much. Take a look at the CG. What you want to attain is the CG. So put whatever battery you're using wherever you have to put it to get that CG. It might not be the same place we put ours. So with that, we're going to tell you one other thing, and then we're going to go to the setup page. Also on the setup page, you'll see some power numbers. We took our watt meter. You'll see the readings we got on both 3S and 4S for this airplane, but you're also going to see watts per pound. That's something we haven't put on our setup page before. Watts per pound was developed by modelers. It's a formula and a chart system, essentially, to determine how many watts per pound you need to make for a specific type of airplane or a specific type of performance. So if you're scratch building something, if you are building an ARF and you want to use a power system that's not necessarily the recommended power system, this is a good way to figure out how many watts per pound that you're going to have to make to get the performance that you want. Where it becomes useful for something like this little foamy that's ready to go is it gives you a way of knowing how much power the airplane makes before you go maiden it. That might not be important to everybody, but it's just kind of a neat thing to know. As it turns out, according to a lot of these charts, which by the way, we didn't print one of those out because when you look up watts per pound aircraft, you're going to get all kinds of links pertaining, of course, to electric RC aircraft, to different forums, to some model magazine articles from the past. All of the charts are very close to the same, but a little bit different. You get the gist from looking at any of them, really. And as it turns out, this airplane on 3S has sport scale power, which is exactly the type of airplane that it is. On 4S, however, it makes 3D plane power, and not just 3D plane power, but very strong 3D plane power. And that is pretty impressive. So look that up, check it out. If you didn't know about it, it's just another tool, another bit of knowledge to have in your toolbox. The more you know, the more you know. And the more you know, the easier and the better this hobby is for you, the more capable modeler you are. So that's why we thought we'd add that and tell you a little bit about it so you can research it and check it out for yourself and see how it can help you. And with that, that's pretty much going to conclude our review of the new E-Flite RV-7. Needless to say, we like it very much. We think you will too. Check it out at Horizon Hobby. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And we hope to see you next week where we will show you something that's cool with wings. Hopefully we'll see you then. Take care. So I almost forgot to give you the formula. The watts per pound formula is very simple. You take the watts that the aircraft made, you divide that by the weight of the aircraft in ounces, and that will give you an answer. You then take that figure and multiply that times 16, which is the number of ounces in a pound. And that answer is your watts per pound.